Hello everyone, and welcome to this newsletter from Week 6, Term 3. Recently, the College Advisory Council held our annual seminar. We were privileged to be joined by Mark Cameron from a company called Alive, that's A-L-Y-V-E, who presented to the Council on artificial intelligence. We were encouraged to think about the opportunities and the challenges that this technology brings, and how we might ensure that we can use it, or we are using it, to teach students to use it safely and ethically. I came away from the presentation comforted that the steps we've taken with AI at the college are in the right direction. At the same time, I came away understanding more about how important it is for us to continue to evolve and respond in the way that we use this technology. This was reinforced to me recently. I read a report titled Algorithmic Kids Towards Child-Centred AI in Australia, and that report was commissioned and circulated by UNICEF Australia. It outlined really clearly, in a great deal of detail, the challenges and opportunities that come with AI, and we're all dealing with them now. These challenges include educating and responding to things like deepfakes and nudification apps, which can be used to create illegal content and lead to image-based abuse. Also, a challenge is young people having access to AI companions and chatbots, which are designed for adults. However, the flip side of that is that AI can help identify and respond to some of these challenges, the ones that it's created. As teachers, we can use this technology to create personalised learning for students and help them develop answers to complex questions. Another great upside is that for us as teachers, it can also help to reduce administrative burdens, freeing us to focus on the things that really matter. A few years ago, I spoke to a detective retiring after a long career with Victoria Police. And I remember asking him what the greatest change was that he'd seen during his career. And his response was he'd seen a change in the root cause of the crimes that he'd worked on. He went on to say that in the last decade or two, almost every case he'd investigated was related to drugs in some way. In thinking about social media and mobile phones, I think I could make a similar comment. The relationship between behavioural issues and conflict in the school is almost always attached to social media and phones. The vast majority of conflict between students has its roots in social media. A high proportion of conflict between staff and students tends to relate to mobile phone use. Usually, it's teachers trying to insist that our rules are followed and students objecting to this. Researchers are discovering more about the negative effects on learning of constant interruptions from a phone. As an adult, it's really challenging not to check your phone when it buzzes in your pocket. For young people, due to reasons related to their psychological development and the algorithms employed by the social media companies, it is almost impossible. I recently had a student's confiscated phone sit on my desk for a few hours during the day, and it buzzed incessantly, mostly with what seemed to be Snapchat notifications, literally hundreds of times during the few hours that it sat there. We have a current mobile phone policy, and it's relatively simple. In summary, it says that students may not use their mobile phone during school hours, that is between about 9 and 3:20. The sad reality, in the simplest possible terms, is that this policy is not working. A phone in a young person's pocket is almost impossible for them to ignore, and it's interrupting their learning. Earlier this year, a parent and student survey was conducted. We asked how you, the families, preferred communication to arrive from the school. We also asked your views on mobile phone use. Senior staff have been reviewing our current policy and procedures relating to student mobile phone use. And before the end of the year, we'll release a new policy which will be implemented in 2026. It's not finalised yet, but it will include a clear expectation that phones must remain in lockers rather than in a classroom or on a student's person during the school day. It will include a recognition that we need some accommodation for senior students who may need access to their phone during the school day for things like contact with employers, and there'll be a mechanism making that possible. The policy will include an expectation that parents are required to collect a student phone if it's been confiscated multiple times. And the policy will encourage families to consider providing students, particularly our younger students, with a dumb phone, that is, one without internet connectivity. These changes are likely to be extremely unpopular with students, and some of you may object to them. However, as an educational institution, learning is our primary focus. We have an obligation to put policies and procedures in place to limit the negative effects of anything that impacts on student learning. You can expect to hear more about the detail of this policy during the early part of Term 4. Tomorrow, that is Friday night, almost 250 people will gather down at GMHBA Stadium for the 90 years anniversary Captain's Dinner. Fittingly, it's in the Captain's Room down there. This event is the brainchild of our 2025 school captains Charlie, Carway and Harris, who came up with the idea after reading the journal entries of some of the captains from a decade or two ago. This is a wonderful example of student voice and promises to be a fitting celebration of the leadership of St Joseph students for much of the past 90 years. As the end of their time at the college approaches for our current leaders, they leave a tremendous legacy for those who will follow. And already at this time, the process for the identification and election of our 2026 school leaders has commenced. In recent weeks, the next group of college leaders will be elected, and they will have a wonderful example of student voice to follow. God bless.